Hello everybody and welcome to this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Ghostly Glades tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic, so let's go. We're going to start off with hole number 1 and I'm going to play with a power 3 ball here. And the reason I'm playing with a power 3 ball is because we do need the distance. The goal here for us is to not go for the pin, really. I know it's possible, but with the spin and also with the wind that we're going to have here now, then we're going to just focus on getting ourselves as close to the green as possible. 3.5 to 4 rings with 7.7. The thing that we are out for here is that we're going to add 20% extra. Due to that, we're playing downhill. And what does playing extra mean? It means that we're going to over adjust our shot. As for the wind, is going to affect the shot more. So if we would be adjusting for, let's say, 5 in wind, then we would be adding 20% to that, which would make us having 6 miles per hour in wind. If you don't know how that works, please make me aware of that in the comment section down below. As well, look down in the video description and will you find the direct timestamp for the specific holes in this playthrough. So if you don't want to watch hole number 1, then you can go directly to hole number 6 for an example. And this playthrough is here to try to give you all the advice packed in just one video at the same time as you can see the holes going on the side there. So you can see here we do have a very short wedge, and this is a wedge we should be making all day and every day. And also if you do have a wedge with some topspin, you can just use the topspin, then you will be definitely have the ball in a less time in the air and have no problem getting the eagle. This is a must eagle, and this is something that we need to get 20% extra. Don't forget about that. So let's go. Hole number 2. Hole number 2 is a par 3. And this is one of the new courses that we do have of the Ghostly Glades, as it's called. And we are going to play here with the rough bump actually, and that is something that I'm going to do if I'm going to have all type of wind except for crosswind left to right. And why do I don't suggest the rough bump if I go crosswind left to right? That is because we're most likely going to adjust down into the water, which is going to lower our trajectory and give ourselves a very tough adjustment. Because if we drop down, lower down than the fairway is, that is going to change the approach that we'll have to do with the adjustment. So our opponent is going to bounce on the right side there, and I do think that is a good way to do. If you don't feel comfortable going with a rough bump, then you should definitely play on the fairway island there. Try to bounce yourself close to the pin, and that spot is firm enough, you know. So we are in medium distance of our club with the with a power 3 ball here. I'm going to play this one on one, which means that I'm going to have 1 ring per mile per hour, which is, as you can see, 2.7 miles per hour, and we're going to adjust 2.7 rings. I'm aiming deliberately a little bit to the right there. The reason for that is that I feel that the ball guideline is falling into the left a little bit there. But you can see here now that that is not going to have an effect whatsoever. I'm not adding anything, as I said, for elevation here. I'm just playing 1-on-1 and we adjust. And we play with a sniper, 1.5 to 2 bars of topspin, depending on the strength in the wind. Hole number 3. One of the oldest, I would have to say. And also something that we just have to add for hole number 2 as well. Never play on the left side. Never. It's like stay on the right side or the rough bump. Left side is going to be too tricky for us. So hole number 3 here now. This is going to be a par 5 first and foremost. We're going to over adjust our drive with 10%. So we're going to add that to our adjustment. Let's say we would be having 9 in wind. Then we would be adding around 0.9 in wind, which would give us 10 miles per hour in wind, or 9.9, but 10 miles per hour, and that is the thing that we're going to adjust for. And it's important to learn how to adjust, like over adjust or under adjust, depending on if we're playing downhill or we're playing uphill. So I'm going to play this one with an XML level 7. And I'm going to play this one with a ball that gives me the most side spin possible. And that is not going to be the Titan, that is going to be a Katana. So I'm going to go with 4 bars of topspin. That is going to be enough when we do have some slight tailwind. max side spin to the right, or at least as much as you can use together with 4 bars of top spin. And then from this position here, we do have 8.3. We're going to over adjust, and we're going to play this one 4 rings, as we're going to over adjust that one slightly. But we're also going to play with curl, and we're going to have in mind that we're going to be pushed back to the right there, and we need to counter for hitting the ball great. And you can see our opponent did try to go directly over to this fairway island here, and I don't blame him for doing so. The reason for that is that it is possible, but then you need to have a club with a good amount of backspin, at least 4 to 5 bars of backspin, so you can get the ball to stop there. The problem you have with that adjustment is that you cannot drag out your adjustment so you can see the ball guideline with your club, but just believe me in that, 4 to 5 bars of backspin, then you will be okay. But in the end, the island there works perfectly, and the thing that we want to do is to put ourselves up for an opportunity with our sniper or with another wood club for an albatross. And if we do as with our opponent is doing here, that is going to be absolutely impossible for not impossible, but yeah, almost impossible for him to get this ball in the hole, and that is a position we don't want to. We don't just want to fight for the eagle here, as this is kind of what we are used to, a kind of an easy par 5 in terms of getting the albatross. So we do have an opportunity here. We do have or let's say a possibility to make the albatross, but here we do need to over adjust our wood shot. As you can see here, I'm going to be +2 yards, so I'm going to adjust this one for being in max distance of my club. And I'm going to go with 4 bars of backspin, aiming deliberately a little bit to the right there to just adjust for the bounce that we're going to get. I do adjust 7 rings, which is going to be too little. As you will be able to see here now, I'm going to have to adjust this one at least 1 to 1.5 ring more. So I would say like this: add 15% to your second shot here, then you're going to be more spot on, because we don't want to be that far away. We do want the ball to come in on the right side of the green to fall down to the left to the pin, making us getting an albatross. So hole number 4, a short par 4 here, and you can see here, look at my landing position now. There is where I want our ball to stop if we do have headwind. And now I'm not talking 5 miles per hour in headwind, now I'm talking maybe 7-8 miles per hour, because 7 and 8 miles per hour we want to be able to go with max overpower and bounce on that island. Now I'm gambling a lot, you know, because we could play ourselves safe and conservative staying on that fairway in the beginning there, but I do want to put myself up for a thorn, which is going to be a good opportunity there. The thing that we also have to have in mind, that maybe you, and a question I've got as well here in a comment, is, Tommy, why don't you do a double bounce on the first fairway and second fairway over to the third fairway, or just trying to bounce from the first fairway over to the second fairway directly? The problem is there is, as you can see here, we are in maximum distance with our club with the extra mile, and almost in max distance of our club with the extra mile with a power 3 ball. Which is going to make the big topper being have to overpowered if we're going to use the topspin there for going just a single bounce over to the next fairway. And also in that way, if we go short on the first, second, third fairway where we are now, that is going to potentially put the trees in our line towards the pin. Look at this now. Look at the view here. You can see the trees there, and you can see just the tree top there is definitely going to be in play many of the times if you go too short, or at least in that distance where the trees are. And this is an absolute perfect spot for us. I'm going to play with my thorn here every single time, minimum distance with a thorn, and I do want to go with a full max backspin shot. The problem we have with this shot in general is that the green before the fairway before the green is going to be very bumpy, which is going to be hard to find a consistent bounce. That's the same for playing with a thorn here directly on the green. But you can see here, I'm trying to find a flat spot on the surface here. And also we need to take a look at the tip of the ball guideline for our thorn to see, is it going to bounce a bit more to the left, or is it going to bounce to the right? And this time it bounces to the right, sorry, to the left. And then we're going to go to hole number 5 after a boom there for hole number 4. So now you can see, now it's not dark anymore. But why is that? The reason for that is that I, after many hours of searching on tour number 7, the Tropic Kings, I couldn't find this hole. So then I decided to just use an old recording, because the play is going to be still the same, still with the same adjustment and elevation and stuff like that. The only difference is going to be that it is slightly bumpier, and not at that position where we are going to aim, but a little bit more to the side. But the thing is with hole number 5 here, with this par 3, is that you're going to either have playing with a wood club, which is going to be the sniper, and that you're going to do in tailwind. If you're going to have a headwind, then you're going to play with a driver. So pick a driver to this hole that do have a decent amount of backspin. The quarterback is an excellent club for this shot, but also the rocket will be a possibility, especially if you have it in level 9 or level 10. So I would suggest that you have at least 6-7 bars if you're going to play with your driver to make the ball stop nicely towards the pin. But now we do have some tailwind. Now I'm going to play this one with 5 bars of backspin as a general backspin approach. You can see I'm using 5.5 now approximately, but that is because the strength in the wind. We do want the second bounce to just be before the fringe. You can see there, just before the fringe, but with the extended ball guideline we're going to have now with tailwind, that is going to make the second bounce be on the fairway, be on the green instead on where we are aimed for, and that is something that we need to have in mind. We're going to add 20% extra to our shot, which is going to mean that we have to over adjust our shot big time. So 20% extra, otherwise you're going to be all over the place here. And you can see we're coming in nicely there, a little bit more to the right, and then we will be getting it in for an hole-in-one. Then we go back to the dark part again, and hole number 6, also one of the oldies here. And here you can see our opponent is going to go for the left side. And you know, you can play the left side if you do have some tailwind, and then you could potentially put yourself up having a long iron or a short iron to the pin. But the drive is going to most likely be overpowered if you're not going to pull out a power 4 or power 5 ball with a decent amount of tailwind. I would say like 5, 6, 7 miles per hour in tailwind to be able to stay away from having to overpower your drive. Because if we do overpower, we're always going to risk the rough and the bunker. So what do we do then? Then we do play on the right side. Then we can play with whatever ball we want. I'm going to play max topspin with my extra mile F7, 4.5 bars, and max side spin with the mauling. Having the red ring, just cutting the rough there on the left. And now we're going to be in medium distance of our club. So we can go 2 ways. Either we're going to play medium distance, adding 10% to our adjustment, or we're going to adjust for max numbers. And if you don't understand why those could be so equal, then the reason for that is that it's such a minor difference between those two that sometimes it's easier as a note and also as a reference to just know, okay, now I'm just going to play it as I would be in max range of my club with those numbers, instead of having to, okay, I'm going to play medium distance adding 10%. Sometimes that is not going to work, so it's not going to be applicable every time, but on this hole it definitely works. So, and also the question I get a lot is like, why do I play with a power 0 ball, like a ball without power, just with a little bit of side spin, a little bit of wind resistance on a par 5? The reason I do that, especially here in regular tour play, is that I'm still going to reach. I don't have to spend a power 3 ball on this par 5. We can still have a very good approach even if we do have a power 0 ball. Just look at this. Sniper level 9, which is not going to have that much of distance, 166 I believe or something like that, or 170 yards. 1.5 bar of backspin here. I'm going to aim up, and also something that is important, the bushes there on top are not in place. You can actually shoot right through them. From this distance now, 8.1. And now we're going to adjust it as it is. I'm going to adjust it for being in between medium and maximum distance. That is going to be 7 rings for us here. And as you can see here, it's still going to be slightly over adjusted here, but you can see that the bushes are not in play. We're coming in with a nice speed, a little bit short, so go with 1 bar of backspin the next time, but also we should be going like with like 6.8 rings or something like that when we'll be spot on. So minor adjustment there to go with, but it works really well from that distance. So that is definitely a possible albatross hole. And now we go to hole number 7. Absolutely a possibility to make an eagle here as well. So we're going to start off by discussing here with ourselves. It's like, okay, let's say we would be having 10 miles per hour in our face, and we'll be having an extra mile level 6, level 7. Then we could either gamble, go in max overpower, or like almost max overpower as our opponent is doing now. But with straight headwind, we're going to have to go with max overpower if we're going to be able to bounce on the fairway and clear the rough completely. Now, our opponent is a little bit lucky to get a bounce on the rough to roll out on the fairway. From this distance, there is no problem to reach for the green in 2. But if we are not able to do that, or like we feel that we don't want to risk going max overpower because we might hit it very much to the left or very much to the right, then we need to lay up on that position where you can see my yellow ring, so we can reach for the green in 2. From that distance, you're going to choose to play with the guardian, as you're going to have a lot of backspin to use there. But now we have a power 3 ball. You can see we're going to adjust this one for 4 rings. We're not going to add anything for elevation, and we're just going to be able be needed to use a slight amount of overpower, around 15%, which is going to be controlled in an easier way, because we do want to get over to this part of fairway. Then we're going to give ourselves such a good opportunity to make an eagle from distance. And if you do have a driver that do have a little bit more topspin, like the Thor Salmon for an example, then I would suggest that you play with that one, so you can reach a little bit further there on the fairway. That would give you more, like less yards to the pin, and that could potentially put yourself in a situation where you can play with a thorn directly at the pin, doing the backspin approach just at the pin. Now we're going to be a little bit in between clubs. And also you can see here for our opponent here is having the Goliath. So the Goliath doesn't have enough backspin, and we're going to play dangerously close to the rough. So giving ourselves a better way to adjust and try to go for the eagle from that distance. If we come in that situation, go with a Saturn that gives you more backspin. And then you can use 6-7 bars of backspin, or maybe max backspin to just go straight at the pin. So now we're going to be in between clubs, and I do have the Goliath. So what do we do? I can't play on the fairway there, because as you can see on the ball guideline, it's going to be very irregular and give myself most likely an inconsistent bounce. So then I need to use the fringe. Not my not my first choice. I would love to go directly on the green using backspin with the thorn, but then I would be switching over to the Goliath even if I have a power 3 ball. 2.1 rings here, and I'm going to use the fringe, and fringe has actually on this hole been showing itself pretty consistent, or at least more consistent than we are used to. And this is also a par 4 where it is a possibility for us to make an eagle. And after going through all the par 4s here in this playthrough already, we're definitely going to find ourselves with a low score tournament, especially if we do have some crosswind, tailwind for them as well. Hole number 8, and now we're going to make it easy for us. We're going to play with a powered 0 ball. You can play with whatever ball you like. The thing that I would like you to focus on is to use a ball with a lot of wind resistance. And if you do have wind 5 balls or wind resistant 5 balls, sure. I'm adjusting this one 3.6 rings, which is going to be exactly as my wind says. So yeah, we're going to do the same here, adjusting 1 on 1. Which means we're going to adjust 1 ring per mile per hour to just make it a good and an easy way for us. And then we're going to be spot on, very close to an hole in one there. I'm choosing a Marlin here, as again, on regular tour play, you don't need to use anything else. And that's also good to show that you can play with a power 0 ball. You're still going to have a decent shot for an hole in one here from the second tee. but we're going to have most likely a little bit higher wind in the tournament, which a wind resistant 3, 4, 5 ball could be potential, or maybe a wind resistant 2 ball, which could be a navigator for an example. But this is also going to be an important, not important maybe, but it's going to be a possibility for us to make a hole-in-one. The thing that you can do, you can go directly onto the green with a driver approach, let's say with the rocket, but I would stay away from that. It's to overcomplicate something that should be a little bit easier for us. So just go with that, fight for the hole-in-one, but be happy if you get the birdie. Last but not least, we're going to play hole number 9. And hole number 9 is the toughest hole in the tournament by far. You can't compare any other hole with this one. And you can see our opponent is playing with a basic ball. First and foremost, do forget about that. You need to play with a power 3 ball or a power 4 ball. And the thing that we want to do here is that we do want to play on the right side. With crosswind and also tailwind, I would be playing on the right side, trying to put myself up there close to the bunker on, you can see on the second fairway platform there. Let's say we would be having absolutely straight tailwind combined with slight crosswind to the left. Then we could pull out a power 5 ball to use the wind to bounce over on the left side. But the problem is there with the approach that we're going to have pretty high wind. So here we're going to play with 3.7 rings here. That is with 10% extra. So I'm over adjusting this shot because we're playing slightly downhill here. You can see max side spin there, max top spin as I do have an extra mile, which is 4.5 bar. And I bounce myself nicely here. I'm not going any overpower. I'm just putting myself nicely there with a kingmaker. And yes, I think it's good for you to use a kingmaker here, that you can make yourself an easier task to get that ball towards the green. The thing that we have here now is that we're not going to have an easy approach. But with crosswind, right side is the only way to play. And then you maybe wonder, what do we do with headwind then? Yeah, that is going to be tough. That is going to be really, really tough. We are most likely going to have to play on the right side, having to almost max overpower and play with a power 4 ball if we do have that. But if we don't have that, then we need to play on the left side. Otherwise, we're going to danger the water. And then we'll have to play up as our opponent is doing there, and or maybe bounce over to the other fairway there over the water. And then we could potentially ship it in with a wedge or a short iron. So max side spin, 4 bars of top spin. 4 bars of top spin is a little bit too hefty here. So 3 bars of top spin is going to be the perfect number here. It's 2.8 and we're going to be in almost max distance of our club. And I'm going to adjust this one for being 2.8 rings. I'm doing it easy for me here as well, one-on-one, to adjust here for the sniper. Because frankly, you know, we should just be honest here to say we are not really looking for the albatross here. That approach and that albatross is going to be very tough to get. And I believe that if we push it too hard, then we're going to danger maybe hitting a tree or adjusting down into the rough, as we do forget about that we actually have that piece of rough and trees in the middle there. So I'm going to be very pleased with putting myself up in this position, just take a safe eagle to end it up with. So our opponent here is having the Goliath. This is going to be extremely tough, and that just speaks for how important it is to pick the correct clubs. Let's say we would be having headwind again, then we should be playing with wood club with more distance, which is going to be the big dog, or it's going to be the cataclysm, but otherwise we can play with the sniper. So thanks a lot for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division in the Ghostly Glaze tournament. The video here is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Don't forget to check out patreon.com/golfclashtommy and also sub to the channel. Good luck in the Ghostly Glaze tournament.